You want the unvarnished truth. The Eagles looked like a team that's lost its script on Friday, and Nick Sirianni's offseason decision to promote Kevin Patullo as offensive coordinator is staring him in the face. Philadelphia's 24-15 home loss wasn't a fluke, it was a symptom. The offense sputtered, the run game disappeared, and one of the NFL's signature short yardage plays got solved in front of their fans. Reuters. This game turned on one sequence that should haunt the coaching staff. On 3rd and 1 inside the red zone, the Eagles called the tush push, the play that has been nearly automatic for them. And Nahshon Wright didn't just stop it, he ripped the ball free and recovered it. That forced fumble flipped field position and bought the Bears an 87-yard 12-play march that put the game away. The Bears finished with 281 rushing yards to Philly's 87, and that moment was the hinge. If your signature goal line move gets neutralized live on national TV, that's not an execution error. It's a schematic and preparation failure. ChicagoBears.com. Let's be blunt about how the offense performed. Jalen Hurts threw for 230 yards with 2 touchdowns and an interception, but he also coughed up a fumble at the worst possible time. The unit converted just 4 of 12 third downs and managed only 14 first downs total. That's not could have been better. That's a formula for losing when the other team controls the clock in the trenches. When you can't sustain drives and you give the ball away in short yardage scenarios, you're handing the opponent outsized chances to win. Reuters. So why does Sirianni's call to stick with Patullo look indefensible right now? Patullo was promoted after Kellen Moore left for a head coaching job, a move that seemed logical on paper because Patullo had been in the passing game coordinator role. But the results, predictable play design, a reliance on the same downfield concepts even when pressure mounts, and too many third and long draws and predictable routes have produced a stagnation that opponents can game plan against. This isn't about one missed throw. It's about a pattern of predictable sequencing that veteran defenders can sniff out. BleacherReport.com. You'll hear 2 defenses of Sirianni. 1, that changing play callers midseason causes more chaos. 2, that the problems aren't isolated to play calling, but to execution, and both are half-truths. Both are half-truths. A wholesale coordinator change is disruptive, but there's a middle ground that's been ignored. The head coach can take play calling back without firing anyone, or at least temporarily script fewer complex concepts and lean into simpler, higher percentage calls to protect their star players. When your team is failing to convert third downs and losing short yardage battles, conservatism disguised as stability becomes complacency. Bleeding Green Nation. The optics also matter. Fans saw the tush push turn into a strip and then watched entire sections of the stadium clear out before the 4th quarter ended. That's morale bleeding into narrative, and narratives matter in the NFL. Coaches are judged on how their teams respond to adversity. Sirianni's public insistence on keeping Patullo as play caller, even after a performance that screamed for a tactical reset, looks less like faith and more like a refusal to face accountability. That's a dangerous line when opponents are already scheming around your strengths. CBS News. What should happen practically? Start small and be surgical. Strip the play calling for 2 to 3 games and let Sirianni run a simplified script focused on explosive, quick read passes, pre-snap motion to free A.J. Brown, and more direct downhill running concepts that create easier third and short situations. Re-emphasize ball security and goal line drills because the tush push is beatable if you teach defenders to hunt the ball and if your QBs are coached to secure it under contact. Use game planning windows to force opponents to adjust. The best fixes are proactive, not reactive. PhiladelphiaEagles.com. There's a personnel and workload angle that can't be ignored too. Saquon Barkley's volume last season was enormous, and wear shows. If your primary downhill runner isn't generating consistent burst, you need to change how you use him. More spacing, fewer piles, design space for one-on-one matchups. And if the offensive line is misfiring in protection or run blocking, that's a coaching and schematic issue that the coordinator must solve immediately. These are patchable things, but only if someone in the building is willing to make sharp, sometimes unpopular moves. Reuters, we also need to separate blame from solution. Yelling, "fire the coordinator" on social media is satisfying, but it rarely fixes underlying problems. The right sequence is head coach acknowledges the deficiency, takes temporary control of the play calling, simplifies the offense, coaches up fundamentals, and gives the staff a short performance window to show measurable improvement. If the offense still fails, then escalate. That's leadership, not panic. And at this point, it's exactly what the Eagles need. Bleeding Green Nation. Make no mistake, the Eagles still have the raw pieces to be elite. Hurts is elite when protected and put into clean, high-leverage opportunities. Brown and Devonta Smith are playmaking weapons who explode when the defense has to respect the run and the deep ball. The problem isn't talent, it's orchestration. Talent plus stubbornness equals wasted seasons. Talent plus adaptive leadership can still produce a deep playoff run. The choice is on Sirianni and the front office. If you're wondering what the scoreboard will look like if nothing changes, expect more frustrating losses where talent can't overcome schematic predictability. If you're wondering what it could look like with immediate corrective steps, simpler scripts, better third down play calling, protection schematics that prioritize pocket integrity for Hurts, and a renewed emphasis on ball security and short yardage, that's a team that could stop losing to its own tendencies and start winning the games that matter. The margin between an early playoff exit and a legitimate title run is small. It's measured in coaching choices as much as in talent. BleacherReport.com. Sirianni has a decision to make that won't be popular with every voice in the building. Accept that the Patullo experiment isn't working, and either reassign the responsibilities now or show immediate and visible improvements within a tight window. Doing nothing and hoping chemistry fixes itself is not a plan. It's a gamble with a season on the line. If he wants to keep his job and keep this roster's championship hopes alive, he needs to act like the head coach he signed up to be. Decisive, self-critical, and willing to pivot when the tape demands it. Bleeding Green Nation, there's still time, but not much. The Eagles are likely to make the playoffs on raw talent alone. The question Sirianni must answer is whether they will enter as a team ready to win in January, or as a roster of stars held back by predictable play calling and unavoidable mistakes. The right call is obvious. The hard part is doing it. If you're an Eagles fan right now, I get it. You're angry, confused, and maybe a little embarrassed. Philadelphia just got run over by the Chicago Bears in a 24-15 Black Friday loss that exposed more than a bad game week plan. This wasn't a one-off stink. It was a clear pattern of stale play calling, sloppy execution, and a coach doubling down on a choice that's hurting his team. The simplest truth, Nick Sirianni promoted Kevin Patullo in the offseason, and after this performance, Sirianni needs to admit that decision was wrong. Reuters start with the scoreboard and the tape. The Bears dominated up front, piling up 281 rushing yards and getting two backs, D'Andre Swift and Kyle Monangai, into triple-digit territory. Chicago dictated the clock, the line of scrimmage, and the mood of Lincoln Financial Field. When your defense can't stop the run and your offense can't sustain drives, you're not seeing random variance, you're seeing schematic failure. The Bears' game plan was simple, physical, and perfectly executed. The Eagles' response looked like a team still trying to remember its script. Reuters now zoomed to the play that crystallized everything, the tush push at 3rd and 1. That play used to feel automatic for the Eagles. This week, it collapsed into a turnover when Nahshon Wright ripped the ball from Jalen Hurts, and the Bears returned possession like a statement. That was not luck. It was a disciplined defensive adjustment and a failure of situational anticipation on Philadelphia's part. When your signature short yardage call suddenly has a glaring counter, you don't adapt with a shrug. You change the play caller or the playbook or both. ChicagoBears.com. Here's the thing about play calling. It's not just about drawing sexy plays or scheming up highlight reels. It's about sequencing, timing, and forcing opponents into problems that favor your strengths. For a team that returns nearly its entire core from a Super Bowl roster, the offense should be humming, not sputtering through drives that end in punts, missed kicks, or turnovers. Fans and analysts have been flagging Kevin Patullo's predictability and conservative third down approach all season. When even A.J. Brown starts talking about execution, that's your cue to stop defending the indefensible. NBC 10 Philadelphia. Nick Sirianni saying he's not changing the play caller after this game isn't leadership. It's doubling down on a failing experiment. I respect loyalty and coaching continuity as much as the next guy, but loyalty that costs wins becomes malpractice. Sirianni is the head coach. His job is to fix the team's problems, not to protect a staffing decision that's costing the team momentum, playoff seeding, and fan confidence. You can defend a coach or you can defend the team. You can't credibly do both when the tape screams for a correction. Bleeding Green Nation. Practical fixes don't require a full staff purge. They require an immediate reallocation of responsibilities. If Sirianni refuses to strip play calling from Kevin Patullo, then at minimum, Sirianni must assume play calling himself and simplify the offense. More quick game concepts, more motion to confuse boxes, earlier use of two back sets that keep drives alive, and fewer third and long trick plays that telegraph routes to savvy DBs. The goal isn't to reinvent the offense overnight, it's to stop bleeding yards in time of possession while Jalen Hurts regains rhythm. When your identity is run heavy, your passing game should be complementary, not an afterthought that leaves receivers isolated on predictable routes. NBC Sports Philadelphia. And let's call out the accountability chain, honestly. Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie hired this because they believed in the stability in the system. Great, but leadership means changing course when the plan fails. Sirianni, being the head coach, gives him the authority and responsibility to make the call. If he truly believes the problem is systemic and not concentrated in play calling, then prove it with evidence. Adjust third down looks, rework short yardage scripts, and show progress quickly. If no progress arrives, then owning the mistake means making the hard personnel call. Fans respect honesty and decisiveness, even when the decision is to admit you were wrong. Forbes. This isn't personal. Kevin Patullo has been a trusted assistant and deserves credit for what worked in the past. But the NFL doesn't reward yes